You know what's funny? We've been told since childhood that vegetables are always the safe zone, the one food group we never have to worry about. But here's the twist that got me shaking my head. Some vegetables, ones we pile high on our plates at Sunday dinners, can raise blood sugar just like a slice of white bread. I remember sitting at the church potluck, a scoop of mashed potatoes on my plate, thinking I was making the healthy choice. Half an hour later, my eyelids felt like lead weights, and I had to fight not to doze off before dessert. That's when I learned the hard truth. Not every vegetable is as gentle on the body as we were led to believe. The problem isn't just sugar from cookies or cakes. It can be hidden in that steaming bowl of soup or that colorful side dish we grew up loving. For folks over 60, those hidden sugar spikes hit harder. Our bodies don't bounce back as quickly. And let me tell you, the crash afterward feels like someone just pulled the plug out of your energy cord. Now, before you think I'm here to scare you away from your favorite comfort foods, let me say this. Thank the Lord, we don't have to give them up. What we do need is a bit of wisdom to know how they act in our bodies. In today's video, we'll uncover 7 common foods: potatoes, sweet potatoes, corn, peas, pumpkin, beets, and even cooked carrots that may be healthy on the surface but behave more like sneaky sugar bombs. I'll tell stories, share what I've noticed in my own kitchen, and show you simple swaps that don't cost a dime. We'll talk about cooking tricks that soften the blow, portion changes that make a world of difference, and pairings that slow things down in your bloodstream. Have you ever wondered why a bowl of soup leaves you weak an hour later, while a hearty salad steadies you through the afternoon? Stick with me, and you'll find answers hidden right there in the pantry. It's never too late to make small, gentle changes that keep your energy steady and your days brighter. If this sparks a memory, give this video a like, and tell me in the comments which veggie knocks you out the most after a meal. I'd love to hear your stories. Number 7, cooked carrots. The smell of carrots simmering in a pot always takes me back to my mother's kitchen. She'd make a big pot of chicken soup on chilly evenings, or in slices of carrot floating like little suns. Back then, I thought carrots were the very picture of health, no questions asked. But the truth I've learned later in life is this. Raw carrots behave one way in your body and cooked carrots another, when they're boiled or softened. The natural sugars get easier to digest, and the blood sugar rise comes quicker. It doesn't mean they're bad, just that the same vegetable can play a very different tune depending on how you cook it. Isn't it something how the same root can be a gentle crunch in the garden or a sweet rush in a soup bowl? That's the kind of hidden twist that surprised me most. One evening, after a hearty serving of carrot puree at a friend's house, I felt that familiar wave of drowsiness roll over me. It puzzled me because I wasn't eating cake or pie, just vegetables. But that's the trick. Cooked carrots, especially mashed or blended, can hit like a spoonful of sugar. When we soften the fibers through cooking, the body doesn't have to work as hard to break them down. That means quicker absorption and quicker spikes. For an older body like mine, that fast rise followed by a sudden drop feels like riding a roller coaster I didn't sign up for. Have you ever felt that slump after what you thought was a light meal? It's moments like that which made me rethink how I serve these bright orange roots. A curious fact is that carrots were once purple and yellow before the Dutch bred them into the orange we all know today. That's a reminder for me that even foods carry their own history of change. And just like carrot evolved, maybe the way we prepare them can evolve, too. Instead of long boils or purees, I've started enjoying carrots roasted just until tender, not mushy. That way they keep a bit of fiber and don't dump all their sweetness at once. Tossed with olive oil, a sprinkle of herbs, and maybe a splash of vinegar, they taste richer without sending my sugar levels on a wild ride. Isn't it funny how a small change in the oven can feel like a big shift in the body? Another little trick I've leaned on is pairing cooked carrots with protein or fat. A handful of roasted chicken, or even a pat of butter melts into the dish and slows things down inside me. It's like adding a brake to the sugar train before it runs off the track. My grandson likes his carrots dipped in hummus, and I notice that keeps me steadier too. These aren't complicated fixes. They're old kitchen wisdom dressed in modern science. And in truth, it makes the meal taste better, fuller, and more satisfying. Sometimes the answer is not in cutting out the food, but in keeping it company with the right partner on the plate. These days, I smile when I see carrots in the grocery basket because I know better than to fear them. They're a blessing, sweet, colorful, full of goodness, but with a side of caution when cooked too soft. Since I learned how to handle them, I don't dread that sleepy dip after dinner anymore. Instead, I get to enjoy the taste, the memory, and the nourishment without the crash. It amazes me that something so small, like how long you leave them on the stove, can change the way your whole afternoon feels. And every time I roast them lightly instead of boiling them into mush, I thank the Lord for giving us the wisdom to adjust, not abandon, the foods we love. Number 6, beets. If the carrot is a little sun on the plate, then the beet is a jewel straight from the earth. I still remember pulling them from my neighbor's garden, hands stained red, like I'd been playing with paint. Folks often praise beets for their antioxidants, and they do carry plenty of good stuff. But here's the hidden part. Those deep red roots are also packed with natural sugars. And when we drink beet juice or blend them into smoothies, those sugars travel into our bloodstream fast, like a rushing river after a storm. It's not something most of us were told when we first heard beets were healthy. It's almost like a sweet secret hiding in plain sight. Funny thing, my granddaughter once brought me a glass of beet juice, swearing it would help my heart. She wasn't wrong about the nutrients, but after finishing it, I felt my energy soar high and then crash like a kite whose string snapped. That quick rush left me shaky, not steady, and it reminded me of eating candy on Halloween night as a boy. The difference is, candy comes with a warning. Vegetables don't. That's why it catches us off guard. And when you're over 60, that sudden dip can feel heavier, almost like someone turned the dimmer switch on your whole body. I've learned to be grateful for her care, but also careful with how much and in what form I take my beets. There's a long history behind this root, too. Beets were once fed mainly to animals until people discovered their natural sweetness and turned them into sugar beets. Imagine that. What started in the field as fodder now shows up bottled as a trendy health drink. To me, that says a lot about how we humans chase sweetness, even when it's dressed in healthy clothes. And it explains why beet juice is popular in gyms and health stores today. But while younger folks may burn through that sugar quick, our bodies after 60 are more like steady engines. They run best on slow, even fuel, not sudden bursts. That's why the way we prepare beets matters so much. These days, I'll slice a beet thin, roast it with a drizzle of olive oil, and enjoy it alongside leafy greens or a handful of nuts. That way, the sugars don't hit alone. They're slowed down by fiber and fat. Sometimes I'll even pickle them in vinegar, which changes the way the body absorbs them. It's a simple, old-fashioned trick, but it makes a big difference. Pairing beets with protein, say a bit of cheese or eggs, keeps the sugar release steadier. Instead of a roller coaster, it feels more like a gentle country road. And let me tell you, at this stage in life, I'll take the country road over the thrill ride any day. I've come to see beets not as an enemy, but as a blessing with a warning label only age can teach you to read. The color, the flavor, the tradition, they're worth keeping on the table. But now, I don't down in the glass or overdo the sweet sides. Instead, I enjoy them thoughtfully with balance and gratitude. And the reward is simple: steady energy, clear afternoons, and a body that doesn't complain as much. Just thinking back, I never imagined that something as earthy as a beet could feel like candy in disguise. And yet, by God's grace, even candy can be tamed when you know the right way to serve it. Number 5, pumpkin/butternut squash. The first whiff of pumpkin pie takes me straight to Thanksgiving. Cinnamon, nutmeg, that golden orange filling. It smells like family gathered around the table. But what most of us don't realize is that pumpkin and its cousin butternut squash are more than cozy holiday flavors. Underneath that creamy sweetness hides a quick sugar punch, especially when cooked soft or pureed. It's easy to think of them as harmless because they're vegetables. Yet, when blended smooth, they hit the bloodstream faster than you'd expect. That gentle bowl of pumpkin soup you love on a chilly night, it can leave your sugar spiking high and then dropping hard, almost like you skipped a meal instead of eating one. One autumn, after church service, we had a big pot of pumpkin soup at a fellowship lunch. I remember going back for seconds because it was warm and filling, like comfort in a bowl. But less than an hour later, my legs felt heavy and my head cloudy. I thought it was just a long sermon catching up to me. But later I learned it was that sweet surge from the squash. It's sneaky, because it doesn't taste as sugary as a cookie, but your body doesn't know the difference. Have you ever felt weak or even shaky after a healthy soup or side dish? That's the silent way pumpkin and squash can play tricks on us. Pumpkin has been part of American life since the very beginning. Native tribes use it roasted or dried, a sturdy food that kept them through winter. Back then, they paired it with beans, corn, and meat, foods that slowed its effect and made the meal balanced. These days, we tend to eat alone, sweetened in pies or softened in purees. That's where the trouble comes in. Our ancestors had the wisdom of combinations. We sometimes forget that and just chase the flavor. It's a reminder that tradition wasn't just about taste. It was about survival and balance. And we can learn from that today. What I do now is roast chunks of pumpkin or squash instead of turning them into mush. With the skin still on and the texture a bit firm, they don't release sugars fast. Adding olive oil, herbs, or a sprinkle of cheese turns it into a hearty dish that fills me without leaving me weak. Even a dash of apple cider vinegar on top helps my body handle it better. It's funny how little tricks like that, passed down or rediscovered, can make a world of difference. Instead of giving up the foods we love, we just learn to serve them in ways that serve us back. I used to think I had to avoid pumpkin altogether, but I've come to see it differently. It's not an enemy. It's a gift that needs handling with care. When I respect it, pair it right, and enjoy it in moderation, I keep the comfort without the crash. And that means I can still smile at Thanksgiving, still savor that roasted button on a cold night, and still thank the Lord for foods that warm both belly and soul. Sometimes the wisdom isn't in saying no, but in knowing how to say just enough. And with pumpkin, that little lesson keeps me walking steady into every new season. Number 4. Peas. The sound of peas popping in a boiling pot always takes me back to summers on the farm. Mama would shell them on the porch, her hands working fast, and I'd sneak a few raw ones to eat fresh. Sweet and green, peas felt more like candy from the garden than a vegetable. But here's the twist. While they carry a bit of protein and fiber, peas are also starchy. And when they're mashed into puree or tossed in big spoonfuls into soup, they can raise blood sugar quicker than you'd expect. It's a surprise for many folks, because we think of peas as light and harmless. Yet for a body past 60, those starches can feel heavy once they're broken down. My grandson loves split pea soup, and I'll admit I do too. But one cold evening, I had a big bowl of it for dinner, thinking it would be gentle. Not long after, I felt that wave of fatigue roll over me, the same kind I used to blame on long work days. It wasn't the work. It was my blood sugar dipping after climbing too high, too fast. That's the tricky part with peas. They taste mild, but in large portions, they act louder inside the body. Have you ever eaten a plate of something light and then found yourself nodding off in your chair? That's the peas playing a quiet trick. Peas have been part of the American table for centuries. In the Civil War, dried peas kept soldiers alive through harsh winters. They were filling, portable, and simple. But those same traits, dense starch, easy to cook, are what make them quick fuel for the body. Back then, soldiers burned through it marching miles a day. We, on the other hand, are not marching armies anymore. Our bodies need steadier fuel, especially when we want to keep energy for walks with the grandkids or just making it through an afternoon of chores. It's a reminder that what served one lifestyle perfectly can weigh down another. These days, I don't cut peas out, but I do serve them differently. A small scoop alongside roasted chicken or salmon feels steady, while a big bowl alone leaves me drained. Mixing them with leafy greens or pairing them with a bit of butter slows the sugar release. Even cooling split pea soup and reheating it later changes the way starches behave, making it gentler on blood sugar. Little kitchen tricks like these don't cost a penny, but they give me steadier afternoons. And the taste stays just as comforting, just a bit more balanced. Now, when I see peas on the menu, I don't shy away, but I don't heap them high either. They're a gift of the garden, with a sweetness that still makes me smile. But like many blessings, they shine brightest when kept in moderation. I'm grateful I learned how to enjoy them without the crash. because it means I can share that bowl of soup with my grandson and still have energy left for a card game afterward. Sometimes the wisdom of age is simply knowing when to stop at one scoop. And every time I remember that, I thank the Lord for giving us second chances to learn, even at the dinner table. Number 3, corn. If summer had a flavor, for me it would be corn on the cob. I can still hear the butter sizzling as it slid down those golden kernels at 4th of July cookouts. Sweet, simple, and filling. That's how most of us grew up thinking of corn. But here's the thing nobody told us at the time. Corn isn't really a vegetable the way we imagine it. It's a grain packed with starch, and that starch can raise blood sugar almost as fast as white bread. The tricky part is we eat it in so many forms, on the cob, in tortillas, in soups, even as popcorn, that it sneaks into our diets more often than we realize. And every time, it brings that same quick sugar surge. One Sunday after church, we had corn casserole at the fellowship hall. I went back for seconds because it tasted like home. But about an hour later, my legs grew heavy, and I felt the same sleepy dip I used to blame on age. Truth is, it wasn't age, it was blood sugar doing its dance. Corn may not taste like cake, but in the body it acts closer than you'd think. Have you ever noticed that after a big helping of corn or popcorn at the movies, you crash harder than expected? That's not just in your head. It's the way our bodies handle corn starch. Corn has a proud history in America, especially among native tribes who treated it as a staple, mixing it with beans and squash for balanced meals. They called it the Three Sisters, and together those foods work like a team, one slow in the other, one filling gaps the other left. But when we pull corn out of that balance and eat it alone, it's like sending a soldier into battle without his brothers. It fights hard, but it doesn't hold up for long. That's why our ancestors thrived on corn prepared one way, while we struggle with the way we eat it today. It's a lesson in balance we do well to remember. These days, when I eat corn, I make small changes. Instead of a heaping pile, I'll have just a few spoonfuls alongside lean meat and a salad. Sometimes I'll swap tortillas for lettuce wraps or mix popcorn with nuts, so the sugar hit is slowed by fat and protein. Even adding vinegar to a corn salad can soften the blow inside the body. These tricks don't take away the joy. They just change the ride from a sugar roller coaster to a gentle wagon path. And that means I still get to taste summer without losing my afternoon energy. I used to think corn was harmless, but now I see it as a blessing best kept in balance. It's part of our culture, our memories, our cookouts, and I'd never want to lose that. But when I respect it, enjoy it in smaller scoops, and pair it wisely, I get the best of both worlds. The flavor I love and the steady energy I need. Every time I crunch into those kernels now, I smile, because I know I can have my corn without paying for it later. And for that small piece of wisdom, I thank the Lord every single time. Number 2, sweet potatoes. Funny thing is, sweet potatoes were crowned of being the healthy potato. For years, I believed that swapping white potatoes for sweet ones was the golden ticket to better health. But here's the twist. They're still loaded with starch, and depending on how you cook them, they can raise blood sugar nearly as fast. Baked until they're soft and caramelized, they turn into a sugar rush disguised as supper. It doesn't mean they're bad, but it does mean we need to handle them carefully, especially after 60 when our bodies don't process those swings the way they used to. One Thanksgiving, I loaded my plate with sweet potato casserole, topped with marshmallows just like Grandma used to make. My taste buds were happy, but less than an hour later, I felt heavy, drained, and ready to nap through the family card game. That's when I realized it wasn't just the marshmallows. It was the sweet potato itself, cooked soft and eaten in a big portion. Have you ever thought you were making a healthy choice, only to end up feeling worse afterward? That's the quiet trick sweet potatoes can play, even when we mean well. Sweet potatoes have a deep history in America. In the South, they were a staple crop, baked in ashes or roasted whole. Farmers and families knew how to balance them with greens, beans, and meats. But somewhere along the way, we started drowning them in sugar or eating them in heaps, forgetting that they were meant to be part of a team, not the whole show. It reminds me that tradition wasn't about excess. It was about balance, survival, and making food last. When I look back at old recipes, I see wisdom hidden in plain sight. These days, I treat sweet potatoes differently. Instead of baking them until they're syrupy, I'll roast them in chunks with the skin on, just enough to keep them firm. I pair them with protein like chicken or fish and add spices instead of sugar, a sprinkle of cinnamon, a dash of paprika, or even a drizzle of vinegar makes them flavorful without turning them into dessert. Sometimes I'll even cool and reheat them, which changes the starches and makes them gentler on blood sugar. It feels like I found a way to enjoy them without letting them run wild inside me. I no longer see sweet potatoes as a get-out-of-jail-free card, but I don't fear them either. They're a gift of the earth, sweet and nourishing when treated with respect. Now, when I sit down with a plate of roasted sweet potato wedges, I feel steady instead of sleepy. And that little shift means I get to enjoy the comfort without losing the evening. Thank the Lord for teaching me, even at this age, that small changes make a big difference. It's not about cutting joy out of the meal. It's about shaping it in a way that keeps us walking strong. Number 1, white potatoes. The smell of mashed potatoes with gravy takes me straight back to Sunday suppers at my mama's table. Creamy, fluffy, and comforting, they've always been the centerpiece of American meals. But here's the hard truth I had to learn later in life. White potatoes are one of the fastest ways to spike blood sugar, almost like eating white bread straight out of the bag. It surprised me the first time I heard it, because I thought vegetables were all safe. Turns out, when those potatoes are mashed, fried, or baked till soft, the starch turns into quick sugar and it hits the bloodstream in no time. For older folks like us, that quick rise and hard crash can feel like someone pulled the rug from under our feet. I still remember a Thanksgiving when I filled half my plate with mashed potatoes, thinking I was doing no harm. Within an hour, I felt sluggish, my eyelids drooping, and I had no energy left for the family gathering. At first, I blamed age or maybe the turkey, but later I realized it was the potatoes all along. Have you ever felt like that, wondering why you crash after a hearty meal? That's the potato showing its other face. It's not about villainizing it, but about understanding how it works in our bodies, especially after 60. Historically, potatoes saved lives. They fed armies, sustained families through harsh winters, and became the backbone of diets across the world. In Ireland, in the South, everywhere, they were survival food. But those same traits that made them powerful back then, quick fuel, easy to grow, are the traits that can work against us today when our bodies don't burn energy as fast. What once helped people march miles or plow fields now leaves us drowsy in a recliner. It's humbling to see how times change, and how food that once gave strength can now drain it if we're not careful. These days, I don't ban potatoes, but I sure respect them. I've learned to cool them after cooking and reheat them, which changes some of the starch and slows things down. Instead of a mountain of mashed potatoes, I'll serve a small scoop alongside protein and vegetables. Roasting them in chunks with the skin on keeps me steadier too. Even swapping half the portion for cauliflower mash or greens lightens the load without taking away comfort. Small shifts like this make potatoes part of my plate, not the whole show. And I still get the flavor and tradition without the crash. I've come to see white potatoes as a friend I need to keep in check. They remind me of family, warmth, and tradition, and I'd never want to lose that. But I also want to stay steady, alert, and full of energy for the people I love. And that means treating potatoes with care, not blind trust. Every time I sit down to a smaller scoop, paired right and cooked wisely, I thank the Lord that we don't have to give up the foods of our past. We just have to approach them with the wisdom of today. That little shift keeps me walking steady, and that's a blessing worth holding on to. Looking back at this list, I realize how much I once took for granted. Vegetables felt like the one part of the meal where I never had to worry. Yet the truth is more layered, like peeling an onion. Some food we thought harmless carry hidden surprises. Potatoes, sweet potatoes, corn, peas, pumpkin, beets, and even carrots, all of them can raise blood sugar more than we imagined. But instead of fear, I've found a kind of freedom in knowing the facts. Because knowledge gives us the power to enjoy these foods with balance. And balance is something we can carry at any age, whether 60, 70, or beyond. It's not about giving up, it's about adjusting. And that little shift can mean the difference between a sleepy afternoon and a steady one. One thing age has taught me is that nothing is ever too late to change. I used to think the damage was done, that my meals couldn't be reshaped. But then I noticed small habits making a difference. Cooling and reheating potatoes, roasting instead of boiling carrots, pairing beets with vinegar, keeping corn in smaller scoops. Tiny steps that cost nothing but give me back energy. Have you ever thought a small habit wouldn't matter, then found it changed your whole day? That's the gift hidden in these adjustments. They give us back the afternoons, the walks, the time with grandkids that sugar crashes once stole. And I can't help but thank God for second chances, even at the dinner table. Of course, I ain't no doctor, and I'd never tell you to make changes without asking someone who knows your health better. Each body is different, and what works for me may need tweaking for you. Talk to your doctor before making big changes, especially if you're managing diabetes or other conditions. That's not fear, that's wisdom. We all need guides along the way, and sometimes that means a trusted medical voice. The Lord gave us food for our bodies, but He also gave us people with knowledge to keep us safe. Leaning on both is what helps us live longer and steadier. When I think about it, these vegetables are blessings, not enemies. They carry memories of family dinners, holiday tables, and simple farm kitchens. I don't want to lose that joy. I just want to carry it in a way that lets me stay strong, alert, and grateful. The good news is, with a little wisdom, we can. Roasted instead of mashed, smaller scoops instead of heaping piles. Pair with proteins instead of left alone. It's not about restriction. It's about celebration with balance. And isn't that the kind of life worth aiming for? One filled with flavor, with gratitude, with steadiness for every season ahead. So as we close, I want to leave you with this thought. It's never too late to feel steady, even after 60. Our kitchens can still bless us, our meals can still bring joy, and our choices can still shape better days. Thank the Lord for the simple foods of the earth, and thank Him too for the wisdom to use them well. If you learned something here, give this video a like, and share in the comments which of these vegetables surprised you the most. I'd love to hear your stories. Take care of yourselves, friends. Enjoy the meals that nourish you, and God bless y'all.